So let's get started with our interviews. So I'm calling on stage Emmanuel Golan, the director of L'Oréal Group Luxe for Italy.
Sì, ma non semplice bellezza. Bellezza che rappresenta tutte le persone del mondo. Bellezza che considera la natura come il suo futuro. Bellezza come una forza potente che ci muove. Bellezza che si prende cura del benessere degli animali. Bellezza che rappresenta la diversità di tutti coloro di cui ci prendiamo cura. Bellezza che offre innovazioni sociali ai nostri dipendenti. Bellezza che costruisce la tecnologia per rendere la vita delle persone più facile. Bellezza che combatte il cambiamento climatico. Creare la bellezza che muove il mondo. L'Oréal.
Welcome. So I will make the questions in English.
Sì, grazie mille. Io parlo un po' italiano, ma è più fluido in inglese.
I speak a little Italian, but it is better for me to speak English.
So you are quite new of the Italian market. You arrived last year, right?
September last year.
September last year. So the first question I would like to know from you, what is your perception of the market and what are the differences you see compared to other markets you have worked in the past?
Sure. So I've been spending most of my time in my career in between Asia and Europe, but indeed that's the first time I moved to Italy. For sure, moving to Italy, you have a high expectation. I mean, Italy, especially in luxury, is a country of entrepreneurship, a country of creativity that is very inspiring, especially in fashion, but also in beauty. So the first thing I did was to look at the numbers, and we've seen some of them this morning, and I was a bit surprised because, in fact, the market, the selective beauty market in Italy was a bit smaller than I was expecting. We've seen it's around 2.5 billion euro. So it's more or less the same size as Spain, whereas Spain has 15 million inhabitants less than Italy. So in absolute value, it's quite small. And even more surprisingly, again, because to me, Italy is the country of luxe, when I look at the ratio in between the selective beauty market and the total beauty market, we saw this morning, it's around 25%. So the selective beauty market in Italy is 25% of the total beauty market, which is significantly less than many other countries. If I look at the Europe 5 countries, they are more in the 30-35. So it's a surprise. And when I try to understand why, I see probably two reasons that are also points of difference versus the other markets I've been working in. First, we have a wide distribution, 2,600 perfumeries with a low turnover per door. And second, digital is still very low, 13-14%, significantly lower than the other countries. So I see that as an opportunity, to be fair, because I've seen in other markets that this could be changed, and that's why I'm very confident for the future of the Italian selective beauty market.
And so you see this as an opportunity. And can you tell us what are your ideas, your strategies you think you want to carry on in the future to grow this segment from, I don't know if this percentage is the same for L'Oréal Group, for L'Oréal Italy. So if selective...
No, but I cannot comment numbers, but you've seen this year in the publication of the group results that the L'Oréal Luxe became the first division of the L'Oréal Group worldwide. It's not yet the case in Italy.
Okay, so what are your strategies, if you say, in Italy to increase the share of L'Oréal Luxe, so the selective part of it?
The obsession I have, honestly, on I guess the numbers we've seen this morning says it all, is to create value. When I look at the selective beauty market in Italy, the market has not been creating enough value over the last 10 years. So how L'Oréal, as the leader of the selective beauty market, according to NPD panel, we have a role to play and we have a responsibility. So I see two probably topics in which we need to work all together to try to solve things. So it's not going to be L'Oréal on our own, and we will play our role, but it's all together. The first one is, how do we re-enchant the perfumeries? How do we bring back people to perfumeries? And I think it's super important because I said we have 2,600 perfumeries more or less in Italy. average number of transactions per day is 35. At L'Oréal, we also have other divisions. So if I compare to pharmacies, for instance, pharmacies, in terms of traffic, you have 200 transactions a day. Not all in beauty, but so how, and especially the last 2 years, with the COVID, in skincare, we've lost a lot of consumers to pharmacy. So how do we re-enchant the shopping experience in the perfumeries so that we bring back some traffic? And I think this is something we all need to work on together. Brands will have to play their role, but the retailers too, all the stakeholders. I'll give you some examples of what we can do later on. But that's point number one. And point number two is to seize the digital opportunity. Yeah. I understand the specificities of the Italian market, but I'm convinced that from 12-13 we will double the weight of digital in the selective beauty market in Italy by 2025. And still we will be much lower many other countries. I've come from China. China, more than half of the business is done online. The UK is pretty much the same, Germany, so it will come. And to me, it's an opportunity to create value. But provided that we focus on the data, the convenience online, and we focus on the experience offline. And then the two can create value together. That's very important.
When you talk about online, you talk about e-commerce.
Yes.
That we've seen this morning that in Italy is less than 10% yet.
Yes.
But what are, do you have a direct e-commerce as a L'Oréal Luxe, or you are talking about working with distributors that has e-commerce?
No, I'm talking about working with the industry overall. I think you have three different channels of e-commerce today. You have the pure players. Today, they are not very developed in Italy.
No.
We don't have the Flaconi of Germany or the Feel Unique of the UK, but Notino, for instance, and others are coming. So that's one. You have the e-retailers, Douglas, Sephora, yes. Naima, all of them. Some are in the rooms, are today growing this channel of distribution. And you have the direct e-commerce website. And as for L'Oréal Luxe, we have three. We have Bioserm, we have Kiehl's, and we have Lancôme. So I think each of these three will provide different informations. Some will be more helping us to grow the top line. Some will be more to better know our consumers and better serve them, and we'll have to play with that.
Okay. Talking more about your division, you have what you can tell us about novelties or changes you are working on as a L'Oréal Luxe? Even brands?
No, but brands, I think our portfolio, we have 16 brands in Italy for L'Oréal Luxe. You have the big brands that are already in the top 10 selective beauty brands, such as Armani, Lancôme, Yves Saint Laurent, and we believe there is still a lot of potential to grow this brand further. We have brands that we consider relay of growth, because as a group we believe very much in Italy. We've been acquiring the licenses of Prada and Valentino in particular 2 years ago, and we want to develop these brands. For instance, I can tell you that we will launch a very important female fragrance for Prada in September. We've launched the Valentino makeup in some point of sales already a few months ago. So we're investing in these brands. And then we have other group of brands that have a bit more of an alternative business model, I should say, such as It Cosmetics, for instance, or Kiehl's, Mugler in the fragrance. So I think we have a portfolio of brands that is allowing us to reach all sorts of consumers in all sorts of channels that are available.
I understand. We were just talking about e-commerce and digital. What is, for L'Oréal, the strategy for the brick and mortar, for direct retail? You have Kiehl's, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
And you have plans to open more stores, to open stores for other brands?
Not at this moment. From direct retail, we have Kiehl's. That's it. Then otherwise, we are working with our partners. Then except online, as I mentioned. Okay. So no, I think the challenge, as I mentioned, is to try to see how we can re-enchant the perfumeries and seize the digital opportunity. To me, it has to do with innovation. And I expect Italy as one of the most inspiring luxury market to demonstrate the capacity of innovation. Because that's by innovating that we will bring people back to our stores and to our industry. So how do we do that? For many years, the beauty industry has been driven by innovation, but mainly product innovation. I think now we have to think of bringing also some services innovation, things that will make it worthwhile for consumers to enter our stores. So how do we do that? I'll give you 2 examples, for instance, of how we try to drive innovation as a group using the brand Yves Saint Laurent. From a product standpoint, typically, we've just launched, and I think it's available at La Rinascente already, and you will be presented next week in the Milano Beauty Week, Rouge sur Mesure by Yves Saint Laurent. Basically, it's a tool that is helping you with 3 cartridges of colors to customize your lipstick color. You are basically buying the recharge, the tool, and then through an app, you can customize the color of the lipstick that you want and make it happen at home in real time. This is typically a product innovation that is going, I believe, to help to modernize our channel, because more and more it will allow personalization. And personalization is one key demand of the consumers that innovation is going to help us to achieve. Another example, which is more how to bring people to our perfumeries. We have just announced again on Yves Saint Laurent 3 weeks ago that we've been partnering with a neuroscience specialist called Emotive. The idea is they have developed a headset that when you are trying a scent or trying a fragrance, is connecting the emotion to an algorithm that will help you understand better what you need for you depending on the emotion that the scent is triggering. This is not yet available, will be available in stores in 2023, but typically that's the way we can reinvent the fragrance shopping experience, make the journey to the store necessary, because this is not something you can do online, and then this innovation, both online and offline, you can somehow bring back some appeal, some excitement, and we believe as a group, L'Oréal, we have a role to play, but this is something we'll have to do all together.
So it's also an issue of technology investments more and more for the future.
Yes, at L'Oréal, you know, the most popular jargon right now is beauty tech. We talk about beauty because we believe again that innovation is a driver of the beauty industry, and technology in particular is and will be in the years to come. So we see that as really a key trend that should help us modernize and bring back people to our stores.
A personal question. What do you think about this phenomenon of the celebrities and influencers that launches more and more? Every day you read about an actor or a singer or whoever, a man, a woman, whoever, its own brand for fashion, but mostly for beauty. And some of them are really successful. You think it's a trend that is going to become consistent? We can expect a share of market that we will belong to celebrities or not?
The fact is, when you look at some of the indie makeup brands in the US, when you look at some of the fragrance brands as well, this is a market. I think the celebrity is allowing to build right away awareness, which is in our business important, and probably it's a good shortcut to take rather than trying to build a brand that is taking for some time, years, especially if you are in more loyalty builders categories such as skincare. So is it a trend? Yes. Is it opportunistic? Certainly. Is it going to last? We will see. This is not our business model at L'Oréal because we are not doing this type of thing structurally. We may do a partner with some celebrities, but we don't have per se celebrity brands.
Okay. And last question about sustainability. Mm-hmm. You, L'Oréal, as all the big groups in any industries, are paying more and more attention to sustainability. But my question is, for you, it's a subject that is more related to the corporate, or is something that is really a request of the consumers and of the market?
Both. I think this is our duty as a big organization to make sure we leave a better place to our children than the one we are living in. So I think it's, and that's why L'Oréal, we initiated the sustainability journey 15 years ago. So it was far before consumers did express a need at that time. And by the way, we've been recognized for the 6th consecutive year one of the most sustainable company, as we got the AAA by CDP, which is a non-charity organization assessing the sustainability impact of companies. Now we are accelerating with very clear commitment. If you look at the website of L'Oréal, you will see that by 2030 we have a very clear commitment. And we do it first because we believe it gives a bit of sense to our performance, but also because consumers are requesting it. So we are basically working on three layers. The first one is to fight the climate change. So it's about carbon neutrality. How do we ensure all our sites at L'Oréal become carbon neutral by 2025? We are, and we discussed it this morning, working on using water more sustainably. We've been reducing the volume of water needed for the manufacturing process of each of our products by 2 since 2005. And you have some brands in particular in the Luxe portfolio, such as Biotherm with the Biotherm Water Lover program, that are very, very into this topic. And finally, we try to respect more biodiversity through the raw material or the plants we are using. So yes, sustainability is something that gives sense to our performance, and it's a consumer need. Another one that I think is important to bounce back to the movie you saw at the beginning is the purpose, the sense of purpose. You've seen that we did launch a campaign, L'Oréal, a year ago about the sense we give to our company, create the beauty that moves the world. And I think it goes in the same direction. I think it's important for our consumers, but also for our employees. I mean, you know, they need to work today for a company that is contributing positively, that is making a difference, that is having an impact. And that's something that is extremely important for us and that we work on quite seriously.
Thank you, Manuel.
Thank you, David.
I hope to have the chance to have you here again in the next
Thank you.
Thank you.